The great chamber floated in empty space like a crystal flower made of light. Stars shone through its clear walls, and inside, beings from across the galaxy sat in judgment. Ambassador Jinwoo Park stood in the center of it all, his hands folded behind his back. He wore the simple blue uniform of Earth's diplomatic corps, but his face showed no fear. Around him, hundreds of alien voices whispered in languages that had existed for millions of years. The translation devices in his ears turned their words into something he could understand, but the tone was always the same: fear, disgust, hatred. "The human speaks," announced Counselor Veltar, his golden skin shimmering as he moved. The Velkari were beautiful creatures, tall and graceful like living statues. But when Veltar looked at Jinwoo, there was nothing beautiful in his expression. Jinwoo stepped forward. His boots made soft sounds on the crystal floor. Above him, in the observation deck, he could see Minji Choi watching. She commanded Earth's military forces in this sector, and her dark eyes never left the assembled aliens. Next to her sat Dr. Hyunwoo Lee, the man who had studied these species for 20 years. Hyunwoo seemed calm, almost interested, as if this was just another research project. "Honored counselors," Jinwoo began, his voice carrying clearly through the chamber. "We thank you for this opportunity to speak." A sound like grinding metal came from the Threnody section. These beings looked like walking crystals, their bodies sharp and angular. "Opportunity?" their spokesman crackled. "This is judgment, human. You stand accused." Jinwoo nodded. "Then we will answer your accusations." High above them all, the oldest member of the council stirred. The Osean collective was not one being, but thousands, tiny creatures that moved together like a living cloud. When they spoke, their voice was like wind through leaves. "Humanity has been in galactic space for 73 standard years. In that time, you have established colonies on 417 worlds. You have made contact with 68 species. 15 of those species have requested protection from human expansion. We have followed all colonization laws," Jinwoo replied. "Our expansion has been within legal limits." "Legal, yes," Veltar said, rising from his seat. "But you expand too fast, too far. Other species take centuries to establish a single new world. Humans do it in years. It is unnatural." From another section of the chamber, a voice like singing water joined in. The Aquari were beautiful, fish-like beings who lived in water-filled suits. "Your species adapts too quickly," she said. "We have watched you change your bodies, your minds, your very nature to fit new worlds. This is not how civilized beings behave." Jinwoo looked around the chamber. Every alien face showed the same expression now. They were afraid. Afraid of what humans could become. Afraid of what humans might do. "We adapt because we must," he said simply. "Our homeworld taught us this. Earth is a dangerous place. We learned to survive." "And that is exactly why you cannot remain," the Threnody spokesman crackled. "Survival at any cost. Change at any speed. Your species has no limits, no restraint. You are too dangerous to exist among civilized peoples." Dr. Hyunwoo Lee leaned forward in the observation deck. His fingers moved quickly over a small device recording everything. He had spent decades studying alien biology, alien cultures, alien weaknesses. Now he watched as they revealed their greatest weakness of all: they could not change. "The vote will commence," announced the Osean collective. "All in favor of immediate human banishment from galactic space." Light after light appeared throughout the chamber. Golden light from the Velkari, blue light from the Aquari, white light from the Threnody, red light from a dozen other species. The votes came quickly, each one sealing humanity's fate. When the counting ended, the result was clear. Of the 412 species represented in the council, 407 voted for banishment. Only 5 abstained. None voted in humanity's favor. Jinwoo stood silent for a long moment. Around him, the alien delegates began to whisper among themselves. Some seemed satisfied, others looked almost guilty, a few appeared relieved, as if a great burden had been lifted from their shoulders. "The Council has spoken," Veltar announced. "Humanity is banished from galactic space. You have 1 standard year to withdraw all human presence from beyond your home system. Any human found in Council space after that time will be considered an invader." "We understand," Jinwoo said. His voice remained steady, professional. But there was something in his eyes now, something that made several aliens shift uncomfortably in their seats. "Furthermore," continued the Threnody spokesman, "all trade agreements with human settlements are hereby terminated. All technological exchanges are ended. All communication protocols are suspended. Humanity will return to its home system and remain there." Jinwoo nodded once. "Is there anything else?" The chamber fell silent. Many of the aliens seemed surprised by his calm reaction. They had expected anger, perhaps begging. Certainly not this quiet acceptance. "The human delegation may depart," the Osean Collective whispered. Jinwoo turned and walked toward the exit. His steps were measured, unhurried. Behind him, Minji Choi and Dr. Hyunwoo Lee rose from their seats and followed. As they reached the chamber doors, Jinwoo paused and looked back. "Honored counselors," he said, his voice carrying to every corner of the crystal chamber. "We thank you for this lesson. We came here seeking partnership. You have shown us that we need no partners but ourselves. We accept your judgment, and we will trouble you no more." The doors closed behind them with a soft sound like sighing wind. In Nar. The shuttle bay, Admiral Sun-hee Kim waited beside her ship. She was an older woman, her hair silver, her face marked by years of command. When she saw the 3 humans approaching, she straightened. "Admiral," Jinwoo said as he reached her, "please send word to all human settlements. Full withdrawal from Council space. 1-year timeline." Sun-hee nodded. "And our destination, Ambassador?" For the first time since the judgment began, Jinwoo smiled. It was not a pleasant expression. "Anywhere but here, Admiral. The galaxy is large, and most of it lies beyond the Council's reach." As their shuttle departed the crystal chamber, none of them looked back. Behind them, the Council delegates were already discussing how to divide up the territories humanity would leave behind. They spoke of resources and strategic positions, of the opportunities that human withdrawal would create. Not one of them wondered what humanity might find in the vast darkness beyond their reach. Not one of them considered that banishment might be exactly what the human species needed. They would learn their mistake soon enough. 18 months had passed since the Council's judgment. Captain Do-Yun Nam stood on the bridge of the colony ship New Horizon, watching the last human transport clear Council space. Behind them, the galaxy spread out like a jeweled spiral, beautiful and forbidden. Ahead lay only darkness. "Final transport clear of the boundary," reported his navigation officer. "All human assets have been withdrawn from Council space." Do-Yun nodded. Around him, his crew worked at their stations with quiet efficiency. These were not the faces of defeated people. These were explorers, pioneers, men and women who had volunteered for the greatest journey in human history. "Dr. Lim," he called, to the chief navigator. "Report on our destination." Dr. Yaren Lim looked up from her star charts. She was a small woman with bright eyes and calloused hands from years of working with navigation equipment. "The Andromeda approach is still 3 months away at current speed, Captain. But the long-range sensors are picking up exactly what we hoped to find." On the main screen, a 3-dimensional map appeared. It showed empty space between galaxies, marked with hundreds of small dots. Each dot represented a world, a moon, or an asteroid field rich in resources. These were rogue planets, thrown out of their home systems millions of years ago. The council species had never bothered to explore this region because they needed perfect conditions to survive. Humans needed only resources and determination. Rogue planets with metal cores, Yaren continued. Gas clouds full of rare elements. And something else, Captain. Something interesting. She touched a control, and the map zoomed in on a cluster of objects near their planned route. They were clearly artificial geometric shapes that no natural process could create. But they were old, so old that they barely showed on the sensors. Ancient technology, Do-hyun said. It was not a question. Yes, sir. Dead for millions of years, but still intact. The council species probably never came out this far to find them. Behind them, the elevator doors opened. Engineer Tae-hyung Song stepped onto the bridge, his coveralls stained with lubricant and metal dust. He had been working for 16 hours straight, supervising the dismantling of the last human mining station in council space. Captain, he said, wiping his hands on a rag, we've stripped everything useful from Station Omega. Fusion reactors, manufacturing equipment, even the hull plating. Nothing left for the council to use. This had been the pattern for the past year. As humans withdrew from each settlement, they took everything with them. Every tool, every machine, every scrap of useful material. The council species would find empty buildings and bare rock, nothing more. Dr. Naeun Kim emerged from the ship's medical bay, her expression thoughtful. She was the fleet's chief biologist, responsible for adapting human colonists to their new environment. Captain, I need to report on the genetic modification program. Do-hyun gestured for her to continue. Around the bridge, other officers listened, carefully. The success of their mission depended on humanity's ability to survive in conditions that would kill most other species. We've successfully modified the respiratory systems of 15,000 volunteers, Naeun said. They can now process atmosphere with much lower oxygen content. Another 8,000 have enhanced bone density for high-gravity worlds, and we've made good progress on radiation resistance. This was something the council species could never do. They were bound by their biology, limited to worlds that matched their specific needs. Humans could change themselves to match any world they chose to call home. Time to destination? Do-hyun asked. 73 days, Yaren replied. But Captain, there's something else. We're not the only ones out here. The main screen changed again, showing long-range sensor readings. There were energy signatures in the darkness ahead, patterns that suggested active technology. The ancient structures are not as dead as we thought, Yaren continued. Some kind of automated systems are still functioning. They seem to be watching us. Engineer Tae-hyung looked up from his datapad. Defensive systems? Unknown. But they're definitely reacting to our presence. The energy patterns change when we get closer. Commander Jaehoon Yu stepped forward from his position at the tactical station. He was younger than the other senior officers, but his reputation for thinking clearly under pressure had earned him his place on the bridge. Captain, Jaehoon said, I recommend we investigate these systems directly instead of avoiding them. The council banished us because they feared our adaptability. Perhaps it's time to show them they were right to be afraid. Do-hyun considered this. Around them, the bridge crew waited for his decision. Through the viewports, the darkness between galaxies stretched endlessly in all directions. Somewhere behind them, the council species were probably dividing up the territories humans had abandoned. They thought they had solved their problem by driving humanity away. Dr. Lim, Do-hyun said finally, adjust our course. Take us directly toward the largest concentration of ancient technology. Sir? Yaren looked surprised. That will add weeks to our journey. The council species avoided this region because they saw only empty space, Do-hyun replied. But we see opportunity. If there's functioning technology out here, we need to understand it. As the ship changed course, Do-hyun walked to the forward viewport. Behind him, his officers began preparations for their new mission. In the medical bay, Dr. Nayeon Kim would continue her work adapting humans for whatever environments they might find. In the engineering sections, Taehyung Song would prepare teams to study alien technology. The darkness ahead no longer seemed empty. It seemed full of possibilities. 3 weeks later, the first human colony ship reached a rogue planet designated Haven 1. The world was cold and airless, but its core burned with geothermal energy. Within days, human engineers had established mining operations and begun construction of the first extragalactic human settlement. Dr. Nayeon Kim walked across the planet's surface in a pressure suit, collecting samples. The modified colonists working around her needed lighter suits and less oxygen than standard humans. They moved efficiently in the low gravity, adapted to their new home. Above them, Captain Do Yunnam's ship approached the ancient structures. Long dormant systems were coming to life as the human fleet drew near. Energy patterns flowed through crystalline networks that had waited millions of years for someone curious enough to investigate. The Council had banished humanity to protect themselves from human expansion. But in the darkness between galaxies, humanity was about to discover something that would make their old rate of expansion seem slow and cautious. Something that would change everything. 5 years had passed since the last human ship left Council space. Dr. Yoonji Woo stood in the observation deck of Terra Nova Research Station, watching construction crews work in the vacuum around her. They moved without pressure suits, their modified bodies adapted to breathe the thin atmosphere that leaked from the station's hull. These were the children of the void, humans born and raised in the darkness between galaxies. "Dr. Wu," called her assistant, holding up a crystal device that pulsed with blue light. "We've successfully integrated another power core. Energy output is up 40%. Yoonji nodded, making notes on her tablet. The crystal was ancient technology, older than any civilization in the galaxy. But human engineers had learned to understand it, to repair it, to improve it. What had taken the original builders centuries to create, humans could now duplicate in months. The research station floated beside a massive structure that looked like a metallic flower made of intersecting rings. This was one of hundreds they had found in the void, all connected by energy streams that crossed thousands of light years. The ancient builders had created a network that spanned multiple galaxies, but it had been silent for millions of years. Until humans arrived. "Status report from Admiral Yoon," announced the communications officer. Admiral Changmin Yoon appeared on the main screen, his image transmitted from the construction yards orbiting Haven 7. Behind him, the skeletal frames of new ships stretched into the distance. These were not the bulky vessels that humans had used in Council space. These were sleek, elegant craft that seemed to bend light around their hulls. "Dr. Wu," Changmin said, "the first squadron of Void-class ships is ready for testing. We've incorporated the ancient propulsion system successfully." Yoonji smiled. The Void-class ships didn't use traditional engines. Instead, they manipulated space itself, folding distances and moving through dimensions that most species couldn't even detect. A journey that would take months in a normal ship could be completed in hours. "Any problems with the quantum drives?" she asked. "None. In fact, they're performing better than expected. We can synthesize any element we need directly from vacuum energy. We're completely independent of planetary resources now. This was humanity's greatest achievement in the void. They had learned to create matter from pure energy, to build entire worlds from nothing but empty space. The ancient technology had shown them how, but human ingenuity had made it practical. Across the station, alarms began to sound. Not emergency alarms, but the signal that meant an important discovery. Yoonji hurried through the corridors toward the archaeology section, where Dr. Soo-young Baek worked with her team to understand the ancient civilization. She found Soo-young standing before a holographic display that showed a three-dimensional map of the galaxy. But this map was different from any they had seen before. It showed the galaxy as it had been millions of years ago, with additional structures extending far beyond its current borders. "Yoonji, Su-Yung said without looking away from the display. "We need to talk. Privately." They moved to a sealed conference room where no signals could enter or leave. Su-Yung activated the hologram again, and Yunji saw why her friend looked so worried. "The ancient civilization didn't disappear," Su-Yung said quietly. "They were destroyed, and the weapon that destroyed them came from inside the galaxy." The hologram showed energy patterns moving from the galactic core outward, consuming everything in their path. Worlds went dark. Stars died. Entire sectors were drained of all energy and left as empty void. "What kind of weapon could do this?" Yunji asked. "Not a weapon. Something alive. Something that feeds on energy, on matter, on life itself. The ancient civilization built this entire network to contain it, to keep it trapped in the galactic core." Yunji felt cold despite the station's warmth. "And now? The containment is weakening. Has been for thousands of years. The ancient systems need constant maintenance, and there's been no one to provide it." Su-Yung highlighted several areas of the map where the energy patterns were flickering. "I think that's why the council species have been having problems." Back in council space, strange reports had been filtering through the communication networks that humans still monitored. Ships disappearing without distress calls. Entire systems going silent. The council blamed pirates or equipment failures, but Yunji was beginning to see a pattern. "How long do we have?" she asked. "Unknown. But the containment failures are accelerating, and there's something else." Su-Yung called up another display, this one showing the void between galaxies where humanity had built its new civilization. "Our expansion has been detected. The ancient automated systems are responding to our presence, but not the way we expected." The display showed energy flows changing throughout the ancient network. Systems that had been dormant for millions of years were coming online. But instead of attacking the human settlements, they seemed to be welcoming them. "The network recognizes us," Yunji said, understanding flooding through her. "It thinks we're the builders returning." "More than that, it's been waiting for us. The entire system was designed to be operated by a species like us, adaptable, capable of change. The original builders knew they would be destroyed, so they built their network to wait for someone who could take their place." Scout Captain Min-hyuk Shin's voice came through the communication system. He was exploring the farthest reaches of the ancient network, mapping structures that extended toward other galaxies. "Dr. Wu, you need to see this. I'm transmitting coordinates for an emergency conference." The hologram changed to show Min-hyuk's location, far beyond the edge of human space. He stood inside a massive chamber filled with crystalline displays, all showing the same image, the Milky Way galaxy, with dark spots spreading through it like an infection. "The containment isn't just failing," Min-hyuk reported. "It's been deliberately damaged. Someone or something has been systematically destroying the prison systems from the inside." Yunji stared at the display. The dark spots were concentrated. In council space, exactly where the strange disappearances had been reported. "Captain," she said, "are you saying the council is under attack?" "Not under attack. They are the attack. The entity that destroyed the ancient civilization doesn't just consume matter and energy. It consumes minds. It takes over entire species and turns them into tools for its own expansion." The implications hit Yunji like a physical blow. The Council's fear of humanity, their desperate need to drive humans away from the galaxy, their increasing aggression and paranoia in recent years. What if it hadn't been their own decision? "How long has this been going on?" she asked. "Based on the degradation patterns, I'd say the influence began subtle about 50 years ago, growing stronger over time. The vote to banish humanity might have been the first major action taken under direct control." So-young looked at the galactic map with new understanding. "They didn't banish us because they feared us. They banished us because something else feared what we might become." Yunji activated the emergency communication system, sending an alert to every human settlement in the void. Admiral Changmin Yun's face appeared on the screen almost immediately. "Admiral," she said, "accelerate the ship construction program. We're going to need everything we can build." Problems with the Council? Yunji looked at the spreading darkness on the galactic map. Somewhere in that spiral of stars, an ancient evil was preparing to break free of its prison, and humanity, cast out and forgotten, might be the only force capable of stopping it. Not problems with the Council, Admiral. Problems with what's been controlling the Council. 10 years had passed since humanity's banishment. President Jisoo Han stood in her office aboard the capital station New Seoul, looking out at the thriving civilization that floated in the darkness between galaxies. Human cities drifted through, the void like jeweled networks, connected by streams of energy that pulsed with ancient power. Children played in zero-gravity parks, their laughter echoing through crystal corridors. This was home now, and it was beautiful. The communication. Alert sounded, breaking her peaceful moment. The message that appeared on her screen made her blood run cold. It came from the Galactic Council, transmitted through old emergency channels that had not been used since the banishment. "Emergency transmission from Counselor Veltar," announced her aide. "He requests immediate response." Jisoo activated the display. Veltar's golden face appeared, but something was wrong. His skin had lost its shimmer, and his eyes held a desperate fear that she had never seen in a council member before. "President Han," Veltar said, his voice shaking. We need help. The galaxy is dying." Behind him, Jisoo could see other council members. They looked broken, defeated. Some were missing entirely, their seats empty in the great crystal chamber. "Entire systems are going dark," Veltar continued. "First the outer colonies, now core worlds. 67 species have gone completely silent. We've lost contact with whole sectors." Jisoo listened without showing emotion, but inside she felt the weight of decision approaching. Fleet Admiral Kyung-ho Park entered her office, having been summoned by the emergency alert. He was a tall man with sharp eyes, and he had spent the last decade building humanity's new navy. "Admiral," Jisoo said, "analysis of the Council's situation." Kyung-ho pulled up tactical displays on the room's main screen. They showed the galaxy with vast, dark areas spreading like infection through the spiral arms. The pattern matches what our scouts have been reporting. Whatever is consuming their worlds started in the galactic core and is working outward. "Our scouts?" Jisoo asked. "We've been monitoring Council space for years, Madam President. The entity that's attacking them uses techniques we recognize from the ancient records. It doesn't just destroy civilizations, it absorbs them, turns them into extensions of itself." Chief Strategist Gayon Oh stepped forward from her position by the wall. She was a small woman with a brilliant mind for patterns and possibilities. "Madam President, we've intercepted Council communications from the past 6 months. Their request for help is not entirely honest." The screen changed to show decoded messages between Council members. Jisoo read them with growing anger. Even now, facing extinction, the Council planned to use humanity as expendable soldiers. They intended to throw human forces at the enemy, then eliminate any survivors to prevent future contamination of galactic civilization. "They still think we're the problem," Kyung-ho said with bitter amusement. "Even when something is literally eating their worlds, they fear human expansion more." Dr. Wonshik Lee entered the room carrying a datapad filled with research notes. He had spent years studying both the ancient prison builders and the entity they had contained. His face was grim as he approached the president's desk. "Madam President," he said, "I know how to fight this thing, but it will require sacrifices that the Council species would never make." "Explain," Jisoo said. "The entity exists partially in normal space and partially in quantum dimensions. It spreads by quantum contamination, turning matter and energy into extensions of itself. The only way to fight it is to meet it on its own level." Wanshik activated his datapad, showing three-dimensional models of quantum structures. We've learned to exist in the void between galaxies. We've modified our bodies and minds to survive in impossible conditions. But this will require us to go further. We need to become something that can exist in quantum space itself. The room fell silent. What Wanshik was suggesting went beyond genetic modification. It meant changing the fundamental nature of human consciousness. How many volunteers would we need? Kyung-ho asked. All of us, Wanshik replied. The entity has had millions of years to grow and spread. It controls most of the council species now, using them as puppets. To stop it, we need to become something it can't absorb or control. Jisoo looked out at the human cities floating in the darkness. 3 billion people had made their homes in the void, adapting to conditions that would kill any council species in minutes. They had built something beautiful and free in the emptiness between stars. Now she was being asked to risk all of it to save the galaxy that had rejected them. There's another option, Gaeon said quietly. Everyone turned to look at the strategist. She called up a different display showing the ancient containment network that surrounded the galaxy. We could repair the original prison, strengthen the containment, lock the entity back in the galactic core, and leave it there forever. Condemning the council species to absorption, Wanshik said. They made their choice when they banished us, Gaeon replied. They chose to handle galactic affairs without human interference. Perhaps we should respect their decision. Admiral Kyung-ho pulled up tactical projections. If we choose to act, we have advantages the Council never had. Our Void-class ships can operate in quantum space. Our modified personnel can survive in environments that would destroy normal matter, and we understand the enemy's nature. But if we choose to act, Jisoo said, we do it on our terms, not as the Council's servants, but as protectors of something larger than any single species or government. She activated the communication system, sending a response to the Council's desperate plea. Veltar's face appeared on the screen. Hope, flickering in his alien features. Counselor Veltar, Jisoo said, her voice formal and cold. Humanity has received your request for assistance. We will act to save the galaxy. But when this is over, you will learn why we were the ones who could. The transmission ended, leaving the room in silence. Through the viewport, Jisoo could see the first of humanity's quantum-capable warships powering up their drives. The darkness between galaxies began to fill with moving lights as the human fleet prepared for war. Admiral Kyung-ho stood at attention. Orders, Madam President? Jisoo looked one last time at the peaceful cities floating in the void. Her people had found freedom in exile, had built something wonderful in the darkness. Now they would risk it all to save those who had cast them out. Signal the fleet, Admiral. We're going home. The final battle did not take place among the stars. Commander Hyesung Kang floated in a space that existed between dimensions, where normal physics held no meaning. Around her, reality twisted and bent like liquid glass. Her modified body could survive here, in the quantum realm where the ancient entity made its true home. Quantum anchor holding steady, reported engineer Jaewon Kim through the communication system that connected their minds directly. Traditional radio waves could not exist in this place. Reality stabilizers are functioning. Hee-sung nodded, though the gesture had no meaning in a realm where up and down were just suggestions. Behind her, 1,000 human soldiers moved through the twisted space. They had volunteered to have their consciousness transferred into quantum-capable forms, becoming something that was still human, but could exist in impossible places. The entity appeared before them like a storm made of hunger. It was vast beyond comprehension, stretching across dimensions that had no names. When it spoke, its voice was the sound of civilizations dying. You cannot stop what has already begun, it said. And Hee-sung heard the voices of 1 billion absorbed, minds speaking in unison. Your galaxy will feed us, as countless others have before. We're not here to stop you, Hye-sung replied, her quantum-enhanced mind processing information at speeds that would have destroyed her original brain. We're here to understand you. The entity paused, confusion rippling through its massive form. This was not the response it expected from the tiny beings that dared to enter its domain. Dr. Yuna Seo's voice reached them from the quantum research station that floated nearby. Commander, I'm reading massive energy buildups throughout the entity's core structure. It's preparing to attack. But Captain Min-jae Huang, positioned near what might have been the entity's center, made a discovery that changed everything. Commander, this thing isn't trying to escape the galaxy. It's trying to hide in it. Through their quantum link, Min-jae shared what he had found. The entity was ancient beyond measure, but it was also terrified. It had fled from something else, something that hunted it across the universe. The prison that the ancient civilization had built was not just containment, it was protection. What are you hiding from? Hye-sung asked the entity directly. The response came as a flood of images and emotions, a cosmos filled with beings of pure energy, hunters that consumed entities like this one for food. The entity had been running for billions of years, seeking any refuge that could hide it from its pursuers. The galaxy was supposed to be temporary shelter, Hye-sung realized. But you got trapped here when the builders died. Admiral Ji-hoon Yu coordinated the quantum fleet from his flagship, a vessel that existed in 17 dimensions simultaneously. All units, hold your fire. We may have been fighting the wrong enemy. Dr. Seungri Choi worked frantically at the ancient control systems, trying to understand the true purpose of the containment network. Admiral, the prison isn't just keeping the entity in. It's keeping something else out. The barriers are failing from external pressure. As if summoned by his words, reality tore open like fabric. Through the tears came things that hurt to perceive directly, hunters made of crystallized starlight and vacuum energy. They had followed the entity's trail across countless galaxies, and now they had finally found their prey. The entity's terror flooded through the quantum realm. They have found me. After so long, they have found me. Hye-sung made a decision that would have been impossible for any council species. Instead of fleeing or fighting, she opened a communication channel to the entity. Work with us, she said. We can repair the barriers, strengthen them, but you have to stop absorbing our people. Your species. You are different, the entity replied, its voice now holding wonder instead of hunger. You offer alliance instead of destruction. The battle that followed was unlike anything in galactic history. Humans and the ancient entity fought side by side against the cosmic hunters. Quantum soldiers moved through impossible spaces while reality itself bent around their conflict. The entity's absorbed civilizations, freed from its desperate hunger, joined the fight as willing allies. Engineer Jae-won Kim's reality anchors held stable even as dimensions collapsed around them. Dr. Yuna Seo's consciousness transfer technology allowed fallen soldiers to return to the fight in new quantum forms. Most importantly, Dr. Seungri Choi succeeded in repairing the ancient containment systems, but with a crucial difference. The barriers are holding, he reported as the cosmic hunters retreated back into the void between universes. But they're no longer a prison. They're a shield protecting this entire galaxy from external threats. President Jisoo Han received the reports aboard her flagship as the human fleet returned to normal space. The galaxy was saved, but it was forever changed. The entity had released its absorbed civilizations, but many council species had been fundamentally altered by their experience. They would need time to recover, to remember who they had been before the hunger took them. Transmission from the council, her communications officer reported. Counselor Veltar appeared on the screen, but he looked different now. His golden skin had regained its shimmer, but his eyes held a depth that had not been there before. Behind, Him stood representatives of dozens of species, all bearing the same expression of humbled gratitude. President Han, Veltar said, "The Council offers humanity full membership, with territories and honors beyond measure. We wish to make amends for our past mistakes." Jesu looked out at the galaxy that stretched before them, beautiful and welcoming. After 10 years of exile, humanity was being invited to return home. The offer was everything they might have wanted once. "Thank you, Counselor," she said politely, "but we must decline." Veltar's expression showed genuine confusion. "But why? You have saved us all. The galaxy owes you a debt that can never be repaid." Jesu smiled, and in that expression was all the wisdom humanity had gained in the dark between stars. "Because we don't need your galaxy anymore, Counselor. We found something better." The transmission ended, leaving the Council to contemplate her words. Outside the viewport, human ships began turning away from the galaxy, heading back toward the void where their true civilization waited. Captain Do-hyun Nam, now an old man with silver hair, stood in the observation deck of New Horizon. Around him, human children born in the darkness pressed their faces to the windows, watching the galaxy fall behind them. "Will we ever go back?" asked a young girl whose parents had been born on Earth. Do-hyun smiled, remembering the crystal chamber where humanity had been judged and found wanting. "Why would we, little one? We have everything we need right here." The human fleet disappeared into the comfortable darkness between galaxies, leaving behind a cosmos that was safer because of their sacrifice. But they took with them something far more valuable than any council membership: the knowledge that they were strong enough to walk away from those who did not value them. The galaxy had learned that banishing humanity was not punishment. It was liberation.